I think we'll make a start. If everybody could take the seats, please. So while we've been getting ready, I thought it would be interesting to throw up some photographs from 2003 and 2004, where you'll see younger versions of several of us at the launch of Sanog, actually, in Kathmandu, and then the follow-up Sanog a year later. So we were looking at those at one of the socials last night, and I think some of our friends here were quite interested to see a little bit of history, and I think the Nepalese were quite interested to see the clear air above Kathmandu, which we had back then. Slightly less clear now. Anyway, so on that note, let's make a start. I would like to invite our closing plenary keynote speaker, Will Sharnock, to give his keynote address. So Will is the co-founder and former CEO of PacketFabric, which develops world-class technologies that ways that networks communicate with each other. He started his career by helping to build a small regional ISP, Fastlink Communications in Dallas, then moved on to Allegiance Telecom and Acilec in the late 90s and early 2000s. Allegiance was eventually acquired by XO in 2004. In 2003, he joined a small company called Planet Internet Services and helped build a global cloud computing business. That eventually merged with SoftLayer and was acquired by IBM in 2013. Between SoftLayer and PacketFabric, Will spent time at Limelight Networks. Quite a large variety of career and a long history in our industry as well. Please welcome Will Sharnock.
I was just telling Phil, I think he just called me old, but I'm not sure. So, thanks. I'm going to talk a little bit today about what we kind of saw as an evolutionary thing going on in the networking space, similar to what we saw in the cloud computing space about 10 or 15 years ago. Is there a clicker, or are you guys moving the slides? All right, so Phil said a little bit about me. I'm also a board member at Nanog. I recognize a lot of faces. Some of you come to Nanog. As he mentioned, I was co-founder of PacketFabric. PacketFabric came about based on a lot of premises that I'll go into here. I spent 13 years running network engineering operations at a company that eventually became SoftLayer. And if you know much about that company, we started with very small ideas about dedicated hosting, and eventually that company became a global cloud computing player that we sold to IBM. But we learned a lot of things, and we saw a lot of changes in the infrastructure space that it's my belief that we're starting to see similar shifts in the networking space. And then, of course, I like to think I'm a general all-around good guy. You can ask around. I think most people think that. Not all, but most. So what is cloud networking? It's one of those things that, in the early days of cloud computing, we would kind of laugh and shrug, and people would talk about the cloud, and nobody really understood what it was. But I think now we have a lot of context to look back and compare it now to the networking space. I used to talk to customers about the 3 pillars of infrastructure services. When you think about how people build applications on the internet today, it's really infrastructure is the foundational element that all SaaS applications ride on top of. And I used to tell customers that if any of those foundational elements are weak, then the applications themselves are weak. So, compute was one of those pillars, and we would talk about the fact that compute has been transformed into this kind of as-a-service function. All of the heavy lifting's been kind of abstracted away from the end users, and people kind of look at it now as something that scales up and scales down. It's real easy. And what we learned over the years was that customers really embraced this idea. If you built out large compute farms, even 5 to 10 years ago, it's a pretty significant task, both operationally engineering-wise, and then even financially. And so, you know, some of the premises that we based these ideas on were that the market was ripe for some of these same changes to come into a second pillar of the infrastructure space, which is networking. And so, you know, it was our belief that the services themselves needed to change in order to align with a lot of these new attitudes and expectations that customers have developed as a result of what's happened in the compute space. So the belief that a new service model is going to require new operating models, and that the traditional services that people have bought for decades, I mean, they're not dying, but there's less people that are going to be buying it. I think more and more people are starting to look at alternative ways to connect their businesses to the internet and to connect their users to their cloud applications. So I mentioned context. I felt like, you know, this wouldn't be a good conversation unless we talked a little bit about the history of cloud computing. Again, I spent 13 years building out this from really the very beginning until we exited in 2013. And when I look back at that time, there were so many barriers to doing the things that we take for granted today. There were technological barriers, a lot of financial barriers. You know, raising money to build a business like this or like that at the time required a lot of convincing of investors that the capital that they were putting into your business was being well utilized. And then a lot of operational barriers because we were moving away from kind of the traditional single box, per customer, managed hosting type solutions into a much more abstracted service that customers were starting to buy. So a lot of things changed as a result of these types of applications. The technology barriers, you know, were lowered significantly. Hypervisors played a huge role in this. When VMware first started, you know, kind of launching a commercial hypervisor, and it was kind of revolutionary in the enterprise. And then when you looked at kind of the general hosting and cloud space, it was really Linux's embracing of these hypervisor technologies that allowed us to finally start leveraging the compute platform in ways that we'd never been able to do before. Getting much more efficiency out of these boxes, getting multi-tenancy, which was huge, and getting, you know, more efficient capital utilization out of these servers. Orchestration was a big problem. I used to do investor meetings and analyst meetings when I was at SoftLayer, and a lot of the questions we would get were, you know, where did you buy all of this orchestration capability? Well, we didn't. We had to build it. It didn't exist. So the ability to take bare metal servers and provision them from an order that comes in from the internet into a custom configuration that somebody orders through the web form, none of that existed. We had to build all that. And so, again, one of the barriers that we had was that there wasn't an easy way to do this until we started getting much more refined software on the hardware. The financial barriers I mentioned, you know, market validation was a big thing. When Amazon entered the space, it kind of validated that this was a real thing. It wasn't just, you know, a bunch of geeks that are sitting around coming up with new ways to spend investor money. It was a legitimate business that could work. And, you know, I won't dive deep into the financial aspects of it, but, you know, if you dealt with private equity or private investors, one of the metrics that they look at is return on invested capital and how efficiently that capital is being utilized. Cloud computing is kind of an ideal model for that, and we think that that'll translate into the cloud networking space as that evolves. And then we started to see out of the valley, where, you know, most of these SaaS companies are funded, that business plans were no longer allowed to have an infrastructure component in the thing. So if you went and pitched a business idea to an investor and they saw that you wanted to spend, you know, $3 or $5 million on routers or switches or hardware of any kind, they immediately pulled that out and said, no, you need to start using cloud services. Again, I think these were the types of things that changed within the market that made cloud computing something interesting. And then operationally, of course, there were a lot of changes in the operational models. Customers didn't have to go in and touch servers. They had APIs, they had portals that they could use to manage infrastructure. And then at the provider level, a lot of changes on the operational side as well. A little bit about what changed was, again, I mentioned this earlier, but we abstracted the physical from the customer. So routers, switches, servers, data centers, networks became a web portal. Customer could log in with a credit card. They could spin services up easily, up and down, dynamically. I mean, this was revolutionary. And the adoption component validated the model. So the cloud model, as all of you should be aware, has been widely embraced by many enterprises. And there's a cloud-first philosophy that's kind of permeating enterprise today. Most companies, when new startup companies, like my previous one, we didn't really have any hardware. Everything we did was in the cloud. And I think more and more you're seeing that, especially with new companies that are coming out. And we've seen kind of a migration of legacy businesses moving away from on-prem solutions and trying to get those applications hosted in the cloud somewhere. All of these difficult tasks of managing this infrastructure, procurement, capacity planning, deployment operations, it's no longer a customer concern. Cloud providers are basically giant capacity managers. How many of you work at a cloud company in the room? Okay. You probably spend an inordinate amount of time just making sure there's enough capacity for the next month or the next quarter. And that's generally what people working at cloud businesses are doing. So the function of cloud businesses is to serve demand as needed. And that's, again, going to translate it later. And we believe there's a lot of opportunities. Hybrid IT solutions are more and more the norm. You're seeing lots of people start to embrace cloud, but do it maybe tippy-toe, taking a little bit of their infrastructure, outsourcing it, and then moving those applications slowly out of their own infrastructure and into the cloud. And connectivity is more critical than it's ever been. So the whole concept here is that a new model is necessary. People have different expectations when it comes to infrastructure services than they had even five years ago. They're getting used to a new way of buying these services, and again, it was our belief that networking is kind of that next pillar that's going to fall in. So cloud networking, what is it? I think that's being defined right now, but by establishing a baseline of what cloud is, it's basically an infrastructure service delivered as a service. So conceptually, instead of having to go out and procure long-haul networks and do all of the heavy lifting associated with building a network, I lost my train of thought when the screen went blank. There we go. Oh. There we go. Is that it? What's going on? I keep losing the screen. Are we good? Okay. I'll give it another try. So again, expectations are different. Customers are used to kind of the Amazon experience. Point-click order services, they're delivered rapidly. The interesting thing is that a lot of developments in the networking space have made that type of experience a possibility. The ability to modify your services on the fly, the ability to go in and change your topology, to turn up instantaneous interconnections. Those types of things are possible now. They weren't really possible because the orchestration capabilities didn't exist. And all of those heavy lifting things I talked about, the procurement, capacity management, deploying infrastructure, getting data center space, all these things that we've spent many years doing in the background, again, completely abstracted away from the customer. And so it's my belief that cloud networking capabilities should match what those customers have come to expect in the computing space, and I believe it's possible now. SDN's a buzzword that gets kicked around, and I think many skeptics in the room, probably when this started getting thrown around, we were talking about, oh, what's SDN? I've been building SDN networks for 20 years. We've basically been writing scripts and building automation into our networks. I think of SDN primarily as a method for interfacing with the routers and switches and the equipment in a way that's really never been possible before. Many of the automation scripts that we wrote over the years were very kludgy. We didn't have real APIs into the interface, so we had to build expect scripts and do really kind of clunky things like that. But by having this access now to the hardware that we never had before, We can now fully automate service creation in ways that are much more reliable than it's traditionally been, and do it in a way where we're actually getting real-time feedback and able to process these things a lot better. And we're also getting better analytics capabilities. You know, one of the things that you learn in any business is if you can't bill for the services, then you're pretty much dead. But we're starting to look at ways that we can get streaming data instead of having to pull data. And that's really interesting because when you're streaming all your telemetry into a big data backend and presenting near real-time information about network performance, these are kind of revolutionary things. These are things that I, as a buyer for 2 decades, would go to a network service provider and say, hey, I want to have a lot more visibility into what's going on in the network. It was impossible. But a lot of that's possible now thanks to all of these changes in the networking, in the networking hardware and networking software layer. And then, again, some of the things that we've seen evolve in the cloud computing space, being able to do time-based or usage-based billing was traditionally very difficult. I think that, again, a lot of the telemetry is improvements in terms of how we get data from the network has made that a lot better. And then from an orchestration standpoint, from a protocol level standpoint, some of the new protocols that have come out have also allowed us to do things like build a giant underlay network and then leverage technologies like VXLAN, EVPN. And I even talked to a company that was using segment routing, which I had never really considered, but I guess that's another way of attacking that. But conceptually, it allowed us to, it allows you to build, the screen went like, broad overlay networks simply, effectively, easily, and in real time. And so it's really kind of, again, bringing a lot of that dynamic configuration aspect that we saw in the cloud computing space into the cloud networking space. I talked a little about capacity management. Again, shifting the burden of this away from the customer is huge. If you've had to build applications on the internet using cloud services, one of the beautiful things about it is that you have the ability to kind of have this elasticity in terms of capacity and scale. So you launch a site, you don't know if it's going to go well, you gain critical mass, and all of a sudden the 3 instances that you spun up need to be 30 or 300 or something like that. We've kind of, as users, we've started taking that type of scale for granted in the compute side. And I think over time, as we build the same type of function into the networking space, customers should have the same level of expectations. They should be able to, provision capacity that they think they may need someday, but only pay for the actual usage that they're using. And in order to do that, as providers, we have to come up with better ways of managing that infrastructure. So tight inventory. I don't know how many times I got an LOA from a provider that was incorrect. And you wait 2 or 3 weeks for an LOA. The LOA arrives. You find out somebody else is sitting on those ports. You send it back. You wait another week. You get another LOA, and it's a vicious cycle. So improving those types of things, getting inventory under control, having good inventory systems are kind of key and critical to this. We did some things that were kind of interesting in that and a lot of people are doing this internally in their own stuff, pre-building and cabling, and then having all of that data in the inventory system allowed us to be able to instantaneously provision services. So you would go in, create an account on the portal, go in, order your services, and within 8 seconds, 7 seconds, we used to argue about how fast it was, you'd have an LOA. The long pole in the tent became getting the physical cross connects delivered to you. But theoretically, you could have a backbone network built in a matter of hours, which was impossible just a handful of years ago. Some of the service options that I think cloud networking enable, these usage-based models, customers paying only for what they use. I mean, these are things that are kind of unique that developed in the cloud computing space that we can now offer in the networking space. Pay as you go is something that is extremely interesting to startups. It gives them a low barrier of entry in terms of getting a business built and launched on the internet. And as they grow that business, being able to apply that same concept into the networking space could have a dramatic change in terms of who's buying these services and how they're utilizing these services. Being able to dynamically reconfigure topologies, I mentioned this earlier. Point, click, in your topologies change, add endpoints. Bring up interconnection on demand, being able to do time-based interconnect. I met with a financial company, and one of the things they were saying is, look, we hate having to leave our network exposed to our partners 24 hours a day. Even though there's firewalls in place and everything, those things can always be bypassed. Is there a way that we can set this up so that we only open the interconnect at a transaction level, or we batch it or something like that? Those types of capabilities exist today because of all the orchestration and programmatic layers that are built into the network. Some considerations as we kind of evolve this into this new model. The way that software and hardware is kind of merging together means that the network engineer position is really changing. 10 years ago, when I hired a network engineer, I didn't really care if they knew how to write code. I just wanted to know that they knew how to operate a switch or router, configure routing protocols, BGP, things like that. Nowadays, when you're interviewing a network engineer, you want to know, okay, you understand the protocol stuff, that's all great, but can you write code? Can you code in Python? Can you code in whatever it is? That role is starting to merge more and more, and I think that this is, again, a natural function of the evolution of networking. The tooling capabilities are essential. Again, because this is now a heavy lifting capacity management function, if you don't have a way to accurately predict the type of capacity that you're going to need as you grow and offer these services, you're going to run into problems. I think historically we've chased this stuff in more of a reactionary way, but being able to proactively predict this stuff is going to make a big change. And then, I mentioned inventory, network deployment management. Again, having enough capacity to sell is a big deal. Customers go in, they expect to be able to point, click, and order these services. If you're not ahead of that, if you don't have ports available at a data center, if you don't have enough capacity to carry the bits that they need you to carry, these are problems. So again, operationally, these are the types of things that, as an operator, you need to take into consideration. And then, last mile, still a problem. It's probably always going to be a problem. But one of the ways that, as a cloud networking vendor, we were looking at solving this problem was leveraging some of the new technologies that are out there that enterprises are using to build kind of overlays across the internet. So taking the existing last mile that they're getting their internet services from, using some SD-WAN software, and then tying them into a gateway local to wherever their offices are located and bringing them onto our backbone was kind of the way that we were looking at attacking that. So a hybrid approach to delivering the same types of services that we would deliver a customer who was directly interconnecting, or allowing them to tie remote offices into the network that they built on the platform. So why does this matter? Well, as operators, the opportunity is huge. You look at Amazon and the amount, they're doing close to, $20 billion a year in cloud revenues, or maybe more than that. I didn't read their last quarterly report, and that's growing 30 to 40% a year, and they've barely dipped into that market. Cloud adoption is still very low. Well, you have to be able to connect to all these services, and people want to connect to these services the same way that they're buying these compute services. And so, again, this region is super interesting to me because you have an opportunity in the Asian Pacific region to build networks completely different, and learning from the lessons that we've learned in more kind of evolved markets like the US or Europe. We made a lot of mistakes over the last 20 years, and so it's resulted in a lot of kind of, bad networks that are out there with a lot of cruft and stuff that just doesn't belong there. But there's a lot more greenfield builds going on in Asia, and I think that when you're building these things, if you take all of this stuff into consideration, the capabilities that exist now, the ability to offer kind of a completely new networking model and new services to customers is a huge opportunity. And I think it's very much in its infancy. There's a handful of providers that are offering services like this. And I think that over time, you're going to see more and more enter the market. And you're starting to see a lot of the legacy providers start to build products that look a lot like these companies' products that are coming out to market now. So kind of tying this all back together, cloud networking is really a thing. When you look at kind of the core capabilities and you compare them from the compute angle to the cloud networking angle, all of these capabilities exist today. It's just a matter of tying it all together and then being able to offer these services. I think I rushed through that. I know I'm between you guys and drinks, so I tried to make it quick. And I'm also severely jet lagged. With that, I'll open it to any questions that anyone might have or comments and see how it goes. I've stunned everyone into silence. Well, if you do have any comments or questions, my email address is on the deck. I'm happy to answer them, or just find me. I'll be at the social tonight. You can find me and ask me anything you want. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much, Will. So thank you very much, Will. I would like to give you a token of appreciation. Thank you for coming all this way to be our keynote speaker.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good. All right, so So now we come into the closing part of the conference, and I would like to invite NPIX to come up on the stage and give their closing remarks. Rupesh, please.
Thank you, Philip. Where do I start from? Namaste. My name is Rupesh. I'm a CEO in Internet Exchange Nepal, NPIX, as well as Board of Directors. It's great to see you all in this hall and in Kathmandu as well as in Nepal. Since my first Apricot was back in 2004 in Kuala Lumpur, and since then, along with me and a lot of people, like Gaurav, Samit, and a lot of people were like dreaming of bringing Apricot to Nepal. And since then, we've been like continuing following Apricot and APNIC events and continuously in various parts of the world, and following it very closely, and probably finally in APNIC 42 in Colombo, Sri Lanka, it was announced that Apricot 2018 will be hosted in Kathmandu, and we were very happy. But at the same time, we were very pressured in terms of like how do we organize such a big event in a LDC or the small country like Nepal. And at that time, we received a lot of support, a lot of motivation, a lot of backing from a lot of people, and that's basically what I want to thank today. First of all, I would like to thank Apricot Board for giving us a chance and then selecting Kathmandu, Nepal as the host for Apricot 2018. Our big thanks to APNIC and APNIC staff. Thanks to Apricot NPIX board members with Gaurav, Samit, Binay, Deepak, Indivar, Kishore. Who else? Well, and myself, I guess. Okay, 7. I missed myself. Okay. And I would also like to thank Nepal Telecom Authority for supporting us. They've backed us very, very strongly, but just when we were very sort of little hesitant and scared of organizing such a big event, and I believe once Molly even told me that a lot of sponsors might not come to Nepal to support, and I was like scared. And at that time, probably Nepal Telecom Authority also stood by us and assured their assistance. Thank you, NTA. And thank you, Molly, for convincing the sponsors to come to Nepal and then support us. Also would like to thank NPNOG, NRAIN team, ISOC Nepal, PCH, ISPAN, and CAN Federation. Thanks to all the volunteers who've made this possible. I'm just a face of this hosting company, a hosting organization, but I think all the efforts were put in by a lot of volunteers, a lot of NOC teams, technical teams. You guys are amazing. Do we have anybody from the volunteers team and NOC team over here? If you guys can just raise your hand and stand up. A big round of applause if you guys can provide to them with the excellent support. Thank you, guys. We also had a local committee, which has Gaurav as the chair of the local committee, myself, Kavindra, Bikram, Ramkrishna, and Uttam. Thank you, guys, for continuously having the meetings and then looking after all the issues that were required to be attended. A round of applause for Hotel Yakaniti, probably led by Mr. Surendra Singh Thakuri. Surendraji, if you're here, can you raise your hand? Okay, big round of applause for Mr. Surendra. Thank you for making this possible in Nepal, and well assisted by Mr. Amit. Thank you. Also, I'd like to thank the AV team, led by Mr. Kumud, Rajan, and Pratik, and AV team of Epinik, led by Arth, Matt, and Shaq. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Yes, and thank you, sponsors, for the trust in coming to Nepal and supporting this event. I hope you will continue your support to Apricot and also provide your support to small events in Nepal like NPNOG. We will reach out to you, and if you can also support those events, we would really appreciate. Okay. I hope a lot of people have come to Nepal with also some tour plans, and I hope that you've also visited some part of Kathmandu as well as outside Kathmandu. If you have not, please, if you have some time, just spare a few days to go out of Kathmandu. There are beautiful places like Nagarkot or Pokhara, or like in Annapurna Base Camp, or even the Everest Base Camp. So we have a lot of World Heritage sites around Kathmandu, also in Lumbini and in National Park. So do spare some time and visit. We have a very good tourist destination, so visit those places as well. Tomorrow we have Holi Festival. I know that some of the people are going back tomorrow, but tomorrow is the Festival of Colors, of Holi Festival. So there will be a lot of people on the street with colors, water, and that might be like, if you have the worst cloth that you brought, just wear that one and go out, so that, you'll not be spared probably. So there will be a lot of fun outside. So that they also gather in some places like Kathmandu Darbar Square and all those places. You can go to those places and enjoy. Also like to thank Mr. Jihadul Kabir, chair of the SANOG, for your support. SANOG is, as we all know, is club together with Apricot, and next August it's going to be in Dhaka. Thank you for good delegation, great delegation that came in from Bangladesh and India and Bhutan and Sri Lanka. Thank you guys for supporting us. I knew that you guys will support us, and throughout our different visits in Ho Chi Minh City and Taichung as well as in Colombo, our neighbors had continuously assured us, and we were very confident of your support, and that was very much visible in this event. Thank you guys once again. And lastly but not the least, this event would not have been possible without all your participation. Without participants, the event would not have been possible. So a big thank you to all the participants who've come to Nepal and attend this Apricot 2018. Thank you very much, and dhanyabad from the country of Mount Everest. Thank you.
Everybody's in a hurry to run off the stage.
I'm not. If you want me to stay for an hour, please. I can stay.
No. So, I would like to give NPIX a small token of our appreciation for being a wonderful host for this Apricot. It's really been a pleasure being here after so many years. Thank you very much. Thank you. So next up, I would like to invite Garabraj Upadhyaya to give closing remarks on behalf of EPINIC.
Thank you, Philip. I am now wearing the hat of the EPINIC Executive Council Chair, though I also chair the local organizing committee and the NPIX. And so a collective thanks to all of you on behalf of the local hosts, EPINIC, and the Apricot board as well, I guess, for coming here, participating, contributing. And you know, as we've said, and I said in the opening, one of the biggest things and one of the biggest desire for something like Apricot to come to Nepal and a developing area is so that the regulars can exchange their experience and share their knowledge with the regional and locals. And I think that is the most critical part of Apricot is all the hallway conversations, all the hackathons and all the informal exchange of ideas that go on. And I think in that sense, all the people I've talked to in the last 2 days have expressed satisfaction. We have had, I think Molly tells me that we've never had so many people attend our social events. And that probably says that there's a lot of interaction between the participants. So I think that's key, and I hope Apricot continues to do that. And we all continue to participate in that. We had a large number of newcomers this year, especially in the APNIC AGM. We have a big contingent coming especially for the APNIC meeting, and I hope that level of participation continues on behalf of the APNIC Executive Council. A few things to add. We just had our APNIC conclusion of the APNIC 45 part of the meeting like an hour ago. And we had a bunch of policies to discuss, a few other things that were presented. We had, at this Apricot, we had the most, probably the highest number of people participating in the policy process. I know that we kind of sometimes ignore the policy part of it, but the policies are very important. And I encourage all the people who do not really participate regularly to do participate. If not in person, then especially on the mailing list. I realize that at Apricot there are multiple sessions going on, and something else might be more exciting. And you can't be at 2 places at the same time or 3 places, but you can always participate online through mailing list and contribute your knowledge and experience to the processes. I don't have a lot of things to add. I have a few things to add in the end, but in between, Rupesh expressed all the thanks. As I said, Rupesh and I probably are the guys up here, and same thing with APNIC. I represent the APNIC Executive Council and the APNIC here in the closing, and so there's a lot of APNIC staff, APNIC SIG chairs, APNIC Executive Council members, and of course all of you who are part of our community, which make this a successful event. So thank you to all the people that make this happen, especially the staff, especially at the APNIC staff, who work with Apricot to put the event together. Having said that, and before I end, thanks to the Yakinyeti again and to the AV team. This stuff is pretty amazing, so hopefully we'll get similar things in future, Philip, because this is hard to beat, and I'm pretty proud of what the AV team did with this work. Also, thanks to our keynote speakers. I attended quite a few sessions, but I also missed a lot of very good presentations. All the 3 keynote speakers at this conference, I've known them personally, and I'm really excited to see their talks. Thank you to Amir, thank you to Will. Thank you to Mahabir, if he's in the audience, for the excellent talks. The technical talks at the conference continues to get better, so a big thanks to the program committee that puts it together, and so Before I close, we still have the APNIC sponsored social event tonight. Please make your way there. Maybe you will get a bit of holy a bit earlier today, but not the watery kind. We don't want you wet or full of water when you come back or go to the airport or something. But also, we just concluded the APNIC EC elections. We have at least one new board member and one outgoing board member. Thank you to Colonel Rupinder Parhar for his 2 years of service. And I am glad to welcome Benjamin from IDNIC to the APNIC EC. Thank you very much to those who participated. And again, once again, as a chair of Sylvia has something to say. Remote participation. Comment from remote participation. Can I finish or you want? Okay, so, yep. As I was saying, thank you on behalf of APNIC for coming, and also personally from me for coming to Nepal, enjoying the stuff here, and helping us make the internet better here in Nepal and throughout the region and the rest of the world. Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead. No, it's just 2 comments from remote participants that want to thank for the remote participation facilities and for organizing the hackathon.
So I'm actually very grateful for that feedback from remote participation because it shows that it actually is working well. So for everybody who is watching remotely, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it, enjoyed the various feeds. I mean, I know, as Gaurav was saying, it's very difficult to try and get to all the different events. I know last week a lot of the workshop participants were wishing that they could be here this week, but such as it is in the working life, you can only get away from the day job for so long. Okay, now, my piece. Do I have anything else to thank people for? I mean, I'm impressed by the list that Rupesh and Gaurav have worked through. So what I'll do is, I'll just give you some numbers for the whole event. I mean, Molly and I were busy sorting these out just before Will started speaking. And 752 total for the whole event. That's a little bit up on last year, which we're happy to see. And that's not on the registration system. That is people who have checked in at the registration counter both last week for the workshops and this week for the conference. So I think that's more than exceeded our expectations. We were working on the basis of probably 450, 500, given a lot of people have a perception that Nepal is really hard to get to, which is totally untrue. And that is just so far to travel. Just so far to travel, and probably not the most obvious place where a lot of participants would like to do business. But I think we've proved that this has been a really, really popular destination. Of those, we had 175 for the workshops, and that includes the instructors, 577, sorry, it doesn't include the instructors, 577 for the conference week. Several stayed on from the workshops. We had 23 instructors for the workshops. Some left, again, because of day job. Others are still with us. Now, given this is co-located with SANOG, I thought we'd pull out the numbers from South Asia. 171 participants from Nepal, 83 from Bangladesh, 54 from India, an amazing 26 from Bhutan, 11 from Sri Lanka, 4 from Pakistan, and 3 from the Maldives. So that's actually really interesting representation. It's actually quite typical of the SANOGs that we get around this region as well. So, as I was saying in the last SANOG that was here in Kathmandu, this is a very popular destination for South Asian participation, and the local community here really participates amazingly well. For other countries, we had 63 from the US, 56 from Japan, 64 from China, including Hong Kong, and 25 from Singapore. 64 economies were represented. That's quite a bit up on last year, and 48 sponsors. If you count all the logos on the screen, well, at the back of the room, that were in the front of the room here. 48 sponsors for the Apricot as well as the APNIC AGM. So that's, again, a very impressive number of sponsors. We really appreciate your support and being part of the event. On behalf of the Apricot board, I'd like to echo Gaurab's thanks to Amir Khan, Maher Biapoon, and Will Sharnock for being our keynote speakers. Again, we really appreciated the time and effort that you made to come here and share your experiences and thoughts with us. And we hope, well, I know Will is still here, that you actually enjoyed the event, and hopefully we will see you at Apricot again in the future. Now I'll try and run through the list, and remembering who Rupesh and Gaurab have already thanked. I should start off with the workshop week. I should thank the workshop instructor team who've come from all over the world to help teach the workshops. We're very, very focused on high quality training to make sure that the participants are getting the best experience from their time here. Also would like to thank all presenters, the tutorial instructors, the session chairs, and of course the program committee of 25 members who have been working really since late October, early November to put the program together. I should say to thank you to Mark Tinker and Mariana Novakovic for chairing the PC and for doing a lot of the program wrangling. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that the PC don't really see. The chairs do have quite a lot of work to do, liaising with potential speakers, helping feedback comments from the PC about presenter slides and so on and so forth. So this is to try and make sure that we get the best quality program for everybody here. As for the Apricot Fellows, we had 420 applications for the 22 places that we had. That was a lot of work for the fellowship committee to sift through these. And again, we had to sift through a lot, do a pre-selection of a lot of the applications to try and make the work of analyzing all those applicants straightforward for the fellowship committee. I'd like to thank Aftab Siddiqui and Rupesh Shrestha for chairing the fellowship committee and helping with a lot of the work. Next up, I'd like to thank all the team at NPIX for all their assistance. I think it's NPIX and the entire Nepalese internet community, because they really have put in a lot of effort to produce this event. I've mentioned Rupesh before. I really must thank Rupesh for the amazing amount of work that he's done, putting up with the Apricot board and all our requests and requirements, day, night, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year, it seems. He's put in a lot of work. It's gone a lot of it's unseen to a lot of you here, but Molly and I appreciate everything that you've done, Rupesh. I would like to thank the technical team at NPIX. Ram Krishna Parya did a nice presentation, the lightning talk session just before, about the work that they've done and the network that the team had built. It's been a great effort. You've seen the large team probably around and about in the venue, as well as standing up earlier. They have been working tirelessly and quite often far too late into the night to try and make sure the network is the best it can be. And I think the network has been really, really good for the last 2 weeks. We learned quite a bit in the early days of the workshops about details of failover and redundancy and so forth, and tuning the wireless access points. And I think they've done a great job. I'd like to thank Maz for being around to supervise the technical team, working with Ram and Kabindra and the others to make sure that we have this excellent network. So thank you, Ram, thank you, Kabindra, and thank you, Maz. I would like to thank our co-organizers, APNIC. You've seen a lot of APNIC staff around the venue for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. There's a lot of work that goes into producing these events, a lot of infrastructure and facilities needed as well. Would like to thank the Apricot event organizer, Molly Chim, for all the hard work, starting on this event 18 months ago. to make this event reality. I mean, we've come here a couple of times to meet with the hotels, suppliers, the local team, and so forth, to make sure that they all understood the requirements that we have for the conference. And I also would like to thank Martina especially and Andre, who've been updating the Apricot website more or less in real time while we've been up on the stages and uploading presentations and organizing speakers and so forth. They've kept it really well up to date, and that makes it valuable for the participants. So you can use the website to see presenter presentations as well as the up-to-date schedule. I think I've got to the end of the list. Thank you, finally, for the volunteer team making up the Apricot Secretariat, the registration desk folks, and the volunteers for their time, their efforts, and so on to make the event run smoothly. On behalf of the Apricot board, I should say that we've really, really enjoyed here. I think Gaurav said at the start of the event, this is a dream come true for the Nepalese, but it's also been a dream come true for a lot of the international community as well. If you were into the room early, before we officially started, I was putting up some pictures from 2003. Basically, that was the launch of SANOG, starting back then, and then, of course, the follow-up SANOG a year later. So some pictures of the team then, some members of our community who are with us today. We couldn't manage to get a reunion of the original SANOG founders, but we've come pretty close. So I hope at least those of you who saw the pictures appreciated them. So, as I was saying, it's a dream come true. The launch of SANOG has led to the launch of NPNOG for Nepal, and of course, SANOG being successfully held in a country means that they know and understand the requirements of Apricot, which is a much bigger event. So hopefully, local community as well as South Asia takes a lot of inspiration from this event that's been held here. So the board has really, really enjoyed the week, all the hard work that's gone in. We've enjoyed the facilities, the hotel, and everything that really has been provided by everybody taking part to make the event real. So finally, thank you all for making the trip to Kathmandu. We weren't quite sure last year if we'd have a lot of participation after the success of Ho Chi Minh City, but I think this has proven that you actually enjoy coming to Apricot, and the attraction of coming to Nepal has been something that's high on your agenda. I realized a lot of international events, that NANOG was back-to-back with Apricot. We had booked our time 5 years ago, so it's well known when Apricot is. And so we realize there is competition, if you like, or closeness to other events that makes it difficult for you to decide. So we appreciate those who decided to come here, appreciate even more the folks who took in 2 events back to back. It's really tough travel. So thank you for that. Now what I would like to do is move on to acknowledge our sponsors. We have quite a large number of sponsors, so it's going to take a few minutes if you would bear with us, but without our sponsors, our valuable sponsors, this event simply would not be possible. So I'd like to invite Paul Wilson up here to help me with handing out the sponsor gifts, and I'd like to invite Zoe Lee up as well to hand out the gifts to Paul and or me. So, where's my piece of paper? Where's the mic? Over a bit? Should we stand about here? It's just for the webcast and so forth, and lighting. Okay. Good. Okay, so let's make a start at the top. So we'd like to thank our supporters, NTA and SANOG. So anybody from NTA here? So I'd like to invite up our gold sponsor, VeriSign. Receive a small token. Thank you for your sponsorship. We'd like to thank our Peering Social sponsor, Equinix. Equinix is not here, but the Peering Social is a very, very popular event, and we really appreciate Equinix's sponsorship. Next up, we'd like to thank our opening social sponsor, DCakes. And next up, we'd like to thank our closing social sponsor, Apinic. Oh, how does this work? Okay. Oops, we didn't think what to do there, did we? Right, next, we'd like to thank our coffee cart sponsor, Netflix. It was a very, very popular coffee cart, and we really appreciate everything Netflix does to sponsor. Next up, I would like to invite all our community sponsors up. So our community sponsors are Amazon Web Service, Facebook, Google, ICANN, NSRC, Oath, and Tane. If there are any representatives from those, please. Yeah, well, we can all stand, but one at a time. So Facebook first. Yep, Matt. And ICANN next. And AWS. All right. How we're going to do this. Silver seems to be a very popular sponsorship category, so let's start with @Tokyo, ADVA, Airtel, AM6, and Hilco. And then we have ADVA. And Hilco. Carrying on with our silver sponsors, we have Juniper, Lynx, NetScout Arbor, and Netka. So we seem to have only links out of this. Well, there's more gifts for us to take home. And that was Juniper. Okay. And who else do we have? We've got NS Focus, Paracom, Seiko, and Telstra. Anybody would like to collect a gift? Right, moving onwards, I want to move to our fellowship sponsors, Internet Society and Google. I think the Google one was taken already, actually. Yeah. Good. Less for you to carry home. Okay. Next up, our Tech Girls social sponsor, Akamai. Okay, now our bronze sponsors. So I'd like to invite Apchi, Bix, Imperva, and JPIX to collect a gift of appreciation. Imperva. I'd also like to invite JPNAP, Mumbai IX, PCCW, and SGIX, our other bronze sponsors. All right, next, the sponsors of the APNIC AGM, CNNIC, JPNIC, and TWNIC. race is on. Who's going to get here first?
Thank you so much. Here we are. Thank you. Thank you.
For internet access, I would like to invite Subisu onto the stage and WorldLink onto the stage.
Thanks so much. John, well done. Thank you so much.
Our wireless sponsor, Cambium. Is anybody from Cambium here? No? All right. Our local sponsor, Encel. NPNOG. Summit with many hats.
Another one.
PCH. PCH. Sanog.
We have a singing bowl for you.
And finally, Sastera. No? Okay, that's done.
All right.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Zoe. And, yes. So, anyway, just again, I'd like to reiterate, thank you to all our sponsors for your contributions, your generosity to supporting this event. We value your contribution. We hope that you will carry on sponsoring Apricot. And for the local sponsors here in Nepal and South Asia, we hope that you carry on supporting NPNOG and SANOG as it does its rounds of the South Asia region. So I'd like to move on to almost the second final thing. This event is co-located with SANOG, so I'd like to invite the host of SANOG 32, the ISP Association of Bangladesh, to make a presentation.
There is a pointer? Is there a pointer? Oh, this one? Thank you, Philip. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rashid from ISP Association of Bangladesh. Would like to invite you the next SANOG 32 meeting, which will be held in Dhaka, Bangladesh, hosting by ISPAB and supporting by BDNOG. So the date is 2nd August to 10th August. Please save the date in your calendar, so don't miss the date anymore. So we selected the venue is Pan Pacific Shonarga, which is the 5-star hotel and almost the middle of the city. So every corner people can come around and actually, you know that bit traffic there. So we choose the middle place, then everybody can come and enjoy. So some general information, like you know that the currency rate, 1 USD is 83 taka, and most of the people speak in Bengali, but English spoken people you will find. Majorities are Muslim, so the alcohol is strictly prohibited few places, so you will find alcohol in the bar only. Time zone is +6, so the weather is typically climate with hot and humid summer. So there is a direct flight from this country, like Thailand, India, New Zealand, Sri Lanka. You'll find that from India, is many cities has the direct flight to us. So the other countries need some transit. And there is an honorable visa available for the listed countries. And visa requirement is you have to present that the invitation 500 currency USD you have to show maybe, and you have to have the return tickets, and that's all I think. So if you need more information, you please visit the visitbangladesh.gov.bd. You'll find the more information from there. There are too many hotels are in Dhaka, but we are listing two hotels nearby the venue. One is actually La Vinci Hotel, other one is Sundarban. So these are the, we just, there are other hotels also there. So these two are very close, so I'm just listing here. So transport from airport is, you can use a taxi. Uber is Patao. Shaw's Ride, these two are from our bike support, Patao and Shaw's Ride. They have the car also. Uber is available there, and taxi from the airport, you can find the taxi. So few attraction places are available in Dhaka city, and outside of Dhaka also, you will find more. So to know about the Bangladesh, Dhaka, I'd like to show a video, but before that actually, this is not the first event in Dhaka for Sanok. This is maybe the 5th. So I hope that we'll make this event more better than previous. I feel proud that most of the, majority of these participants, this event came from Bangladesh, which is 83. So you will find, if you need more queries, more information, so you can ask who came from Bangladesh. Can I request all the Bangladeshis to stand up and just, yeah. So if you need any help, any information, please ask them. They will help you out. And I think you will enjoy to attend the Sanok 32 in Dhaka, and I will get the more crowd from you guys. Thank you. So I just present a video.
যত দেখি প্রাণ ভরে না, হৃদয়ের মাঝে রাখি তারে।
Happiness needs no reason. This is what you will feel when you come here. Things that you will do, people that you will meet, will keep on surprising you. Be with the sun. Be with the mystic wind.
যতই দেখি প্রাণ ভরে না, তাই হৃদয় মাঝারে রাখি তারে। ও যতই দেখি প্রাণ ভরে না, তাই হৃদয় মাঝারে রাখি তারে।
Your mind is a traveler. Now let your heart be the tourist guide. Explore the land of surprises. You'll find warmth you've been looking for all your life. Here, everyone has a story to tell.
যত দেখি প্রাণ ভরে না।
So, when you leave with stories that you can treasure, friends that will last a lifetime.
যতই দেখি প্রাণ ভরে না, তাই হৃদয় মাঝারে রাখি তারে। ও যতই দেখি প্রাণ ভরে না, তাই হৃদয় মাঝারে রাখি তারে।
Welcome to beautiful Bangladesh, a land of stories.
You enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So time to pack bags for Dhaka, I think. So I would like to invite next the host of Apricot 2019 to come to the stage and introduce us to Apricot 2019, which will be in Daejeon in Korea. And while Busong is coming up here, I know several of you are anxious about the social event tonight after it was talked about earlier. The buses start leaving at 6:15. It's going to be about 35-40 minutes in traffic, unfortunately. But so once this event finishes and I close it off, please go back to your rooms, drop your bags, change, go for the buses. They start leaving at 6:15. And we'll start the social event probably around about, well, it starts 7, but we'll start the formalities about 7:30. Okay, so Busong, the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fu Sung-jo from the KISTI. I'm the director of the Department of Korean. Maybe I need to, my talk should be kept short because almost the 6 o'clock, so I try to keep it short. Okay. Yes, the city is Daejeon. Daejeon is the heart of Korea. You know, also is the heart of the science and technology in Korea. Yes, so many you can access via the international airport. Also, you can use the KTX train from the international airport to the Daejeon. Also, the venue and hostel. Yes, there's the venue is Daejeon Convention Center is a dedicated place for the convention, and the sponsor is we are now talking about we are the Ministry of Science and Technologies, as also in Daejeon City was holding the supporting this conference, and also the IFAN, you know, the Asia Pacific, the Advanced Network, the communities. The meeting was co-located. Yes, the KISTI. Yes, it's my organization is KISTI. KISTI is, has two national resources, the supercomputer and the National Research Network. So why the KISTI was hosting this kind of event, the former organizations of the KISTI, they initiated the first internet service in 1988, and now after the 30 years later, we are the also the operator of the National Research Network to the all science and technology people. Yes, this is the convention of the venues, the Daejeon Convention Centers. There's a lot of the meeting rooms and big or the small meetings over there. Yes, the Daejeon Convention Complex, also the TCC was located in that place, and several big hotels were also located there, just beside there. Yes, there's also the accommodation and keys just from the Daejeon Convention Center to the other hotels. Just it takes just 15 minutes. Yes, also the 5-star hotels and guest houses, also 3-star hotels was there. Yeah, so many. Also, we will prepare the social event for them. Yes, there. It also is the Gurjain. You can enjoy it. Maybe also see the Pyeongchang Olympic Games on TV. Just close 3 days before. You can also enjoy the winter sport. Yes. Now I will play the introduction of the Daejeon City. Yep. Please.
Science and technology capital of Korea.
Serene but most globalized city.
It's a wonderful tourist attraction and very kind people.
An optimal business environment with a cluster of leading companies.
We add the vision of the special MICE city to the value of Daejeon as it is known to the world. The next MICE destination, Daejeon. From anywhere in Korea, Daejeon lies within almost the same reach of time as it is at the center of nationwide traffic network. Daejeon is the center of public administration, the largest city of science in Korea, and home to active global business based on R&D. It provides optimal environment for conventions, including infrastructures for business, culture, tourism, and amenity. Daejeon Convention Center of global scale. Pleasant and comfortable accommodations from 5-star hotels to residents. Special places catering to various needs of conventions. You can find them all in Daejeon, where the success of convention begins. armed with experience and know-how. Professionals make specific plans for each convention and provide the best customized services. Taejeon has a proven track record of successful conventions, testifying its outstanding performance. Large-scale conventions planned in Taejeon will showcase even more upgraded capabilities of this city. Tourism infrastructures make your stay in Taejeon more meaningful. From Korea's signature hot spring to historic sites designated as UNESCO's World Heritage and the natural environment. Lively downtown and flamboyant, safe nightlife. Dynamic industries based on state-of-the-art technologies. The places of rest and refreshment where Taejeon takes pride will add inspirations to your business. Based on its excellence in science, defense, and venture, Taejeon is going global. Science complex to be completed in 2019. Specialized MICE talents cultivation program and more to upgrade its global competitiveness. As the chair city of World Technopolis Association, Taejeon leads the convergence between convention infrastructures and science and technology, making contributions to the development of the MICE industry. Taejeon is the place where global leaders share and advance knowledge and find new possibilities for tomorrow. As the global MICE city, Taejeon will offer you wonderful experience more than the success of business.
Okay. Yes, thanks, and see you in Taejeon.
Thank you very much. So I think that's given you 2 events to look forward to, 2 locations to look forward to. I think on that note, I think we can call Apricot 2018 closed and finished. See you all at the social event tonight, and thank you all very much again for coming to Kathmandu. Just remember, buses start leaving at 6:15. When they fill, they go. So don't wait too long before you head down to the lobby.